What's up, everyone? Michael Heath with Get Automating, and today we're going to hit that Jelly Belly API and we're going to create our own custom connector. You ever wanted to create your own Jelly Belly flavor? I don't know, maybe out there it'd probably be disgusting. I don't think they should let people do that.
Get Automating, enhancing humans daily.
All right, so you got the boxed up connectors that come with the Power Platform, more and more by the minute. But what if you need to create your own custom connectors? Let's head on over to the Lappy. All right, started out at make.powerautomate.com, and we're going to come down here to custom connectors. We're going to create a new connector, and we're given a number of different options. Now, you can see here, while some of these tools like Postman are going to be extra helpful, creating that collection and being able to import that on the fly with all those custom actions that you need. But for today, we're not going to hit the easy button. We're going to create this from scratch. All right, name the connector. Right, icon in, change the background color, give it a description. Now for the description, there is a minimal amount of characters that need to be there. So I'm just going to copy from the Jelly Belly API. Now we'll enter our host URL, and this is just the domain. We'll pop that in there. And then of course, the rest of our base URL is the API beans. So we pasted that in there. So no security here. It is an open API. We don't need to authenticate. Now we can continue on to our definition. So now we can build out our actions, triggers, references. For this one, we're going to focus on the actions, creating those parameters that we saw in the planner in early episodes and being able to grab specific data points. So click next action, give it a summary. For this one, we're going to do that beans by flavor. And I'll use that for the description as well. We'll give it a number to identify it. So here in visibility, really important here. And understand that anything other than important is going to be hidden under additional menu items or hidden from the user. So now we need to select the visibility. If we don't choose a visibility here, we're not going to see it. So we're going to use important here so it shows up first. So it is a parameter that is visibly shown. Now the request we can bring in from a particular sample. We're going to use that get request and we're going to pop the whole thing in there. So we have our search parameters, we have our base URL, the whole thing, and we're going to select get. And we're going to import that. So right away, we could see that it has our query items, our flavor name. And what we need to do as well is format that response. So we're going to add the additional response in here. Now, if we come back over to the body output that originally, when we ran our request, we can just copy that over. That's very similar to how we built this out. We used that sample payload. So that's what we're going to put in the body here. And you may not think anything happened just then, but if we click on this default here, you notice that it's bringing in all the payload items and parsing those out, and the validation succeeded. We don't need to do anything more on this page. We can go ahead through. We're not going to attack API plugins, but we are going to use those later on as we use this in different solutions. We can hop through the code. Before we even test, we're going to have to create this connector. All right, so the connector is created. Now we can use this Swagger editor to test a few things out. So we see here, we've got our get statement, and we can try out these parameters. All right, cotton candy, put that in there, execute, and we can see that our response came back. We're going to go ahead and close this out. Now we're ready to use this in a flow. So we see that our connector's right here. It's already just shared with me by default, so I can use that. Now we come over here, we're going to create our instant Cloudflow again. Let's call it test, manual, create. Now, interesting enough, right now, I have some issues in the new designer finding my custom connector. If I search for it over here, let's see, doesn't show up. However, if I turn this off, and I click on custom connector, I can see my Jelly Belly V2, get beans by flavor right there. And once it creates this connection, we can go ahead, save it out. and we could switch back over to the new designer if we need. Not sure why that's happening, but that's the workaround. So now we have manually trigger a flow, get beans by flavor, and we can continue on just like we did in the previous episode. Add an input, flavor name, come down here, show the parameter, flavor name, save it up. We'll go ahead and test it out here. And here's our response. Bean 21, ingredients, flavor name, and we'll notice as well that there's dynamic content that we can use. For instance, back where we wanted to send our email, we've got our bean ID, our item, our flavor name, all the parameters and details about this particular bean. All right, so there you have it, part 3, APIs through the lens of the Power Platform. We looked at custom connectors. How can we get that data? How can we start to craft these repeatable actions so we're not constantly having to create APIs? How can we accelerate that process? So we've got some good methodologies to reach out to our various systems and applications to grab data. We know how to grab data within 365, and we even have those native connectors. Now we're going to take the connectors and take these solutions that we created, and in the next episode, we're going to understand how this integrates into other parts of the Power Platform Ecoverse, such as Power Apps and Copilot Studio. Until then, get automating.